As manufacturers compete to introduce a next great advancement in motocross technology, dirt bikes have been evolving at an almost exponential rate. After years of steady progression and improvement, today's 450cc four-strokes are the most technologically advanced motocross bikes to ever become available to the public. With vast performance enhancements now available on the new 2016 machines, it's easy to imagine that they were most certainly yesterday's full factory works bikes. Each machine is that good. But when you look closely at all the bikes, each one begins to show its strengths and weaknesses and the reasons for why it was engineered in a particular way. With every bike boasting a laundry list of advanced technology that ranges from air forks to launch control to variable on-the-fly ignition mapping buttons, it's easy to get confused by it all. When you break down each bike for what it is, though, it becomes a little easier to digest, which is why we've decided to take each bike on a case-by-case basis, offering you the pros and cons of this year's crop of 450cc four-stroke machines. Honda CRF450R. After making major changes to the CRF450R in 2015, Honda elected to leave the 2016 model relatively unchanged aside from a 5mm longer fork, a new shock spring, a new link arm, and improved shock settings. When combined, the fine-tuning helps to further improve the overall handling of the CRF. The longer fork and new link provide a change in the ride attitude, allowing the bike to handle better down rough straights. But while the overall comfort was improved, the turning prowess was slightly hindered. To alleviate this, we switched from 105mm of sag to 103 and also went stiffer on the Honda Progressive steering damper. These tweaks allowed the bike to settle into corners better, giving us more confidence to remain on the throttle longer. Throughout our testing, we found the suspension to be slightly soft, which we fixed by going in 2 clicks on the compression on the front and rear of the bike. In the engine department, the power isn't as strong or abundant as other bikes, but we really enjoy the linear power delivery and the 3-map selection switch that can be toggled through on the side of the track. Overall, if you like the performance of the 2015 CRF450R, you're going to gel with the single-16 model. The small changes have helped to push the bike further in the correct direction. Husqvarna FC 450 this year marks the beginning of Husqvarna truly separating itself from KTM and becoming a standalone brand. The 2016 FC 450 features numerous changes to not just the bodywork and ergonomics, but also the suspension, chassis, and engine. Husqvarna focused on trimming weight from the bike. Since the engine and chassis are both lighter, this adds up to a significant weight reduction. On the track, the new FC 450 is a blast to ride. When compared to its cousin, the KTM 450S XF, the FC 450's suspension performs better in part due to minor chassis differences between the two bikes. The WP4CS fork holds up on hard hits and rough chop, providing a plush and controllable ride. In turns, the FC 450 performs just as well, diving into deep ruts with ease and going exactly where the rider wants. The new bodywork also makes it easy to move around on the bike without any hang-ups. The motor is a combination of hard-hitting and controllable power, as it has a strong low-end grunt that then progresses into great top-end pull. And like the KTM, the FC 450 comes with a Magura hydraulic clutch and the always strong Brembo brakes. For a second-year offering, Husqvarna has done an exceptional job of improving the bike versus the 2015 model. Kawasaki KX450F. The KX450F boasts a new chassis, engine, and modified suspension settings. On the track, the new bike is a vastly different machine than the 2015 version. Last year, nearly every test rider logged the show a triple air fork, but for 2016, that isn't the case. The new chassis has done an exceptional job at improving the overall performance and feel of the Showa fork. And throughout our testing of the bike, We didn't make any major tweaks aside from a few minor clicker and air pressure adjustments to stiffen up the feel of the fork. Additionally, the new chassis gave the bike a lighter, more nimble feel in corners, down straights, and in the air. The improved engine also results in some performance gains. The power comes on strong right off the bottom and continues to pull into the top. Kawasaki is also offering, for the first time, a handheld Kawasaki accessory FI calibration kit, making FI adjustments a breeze. As a package, the KX450F is one of the best bikes in the class, offering solid suspension, predictable handling, and a very strong motor. KTM 450SXF. The KTM 450SXF got a major overhaul for 2016, receiving changes to the suspension, chassis, and engine. Key upgrades include a new frame, subframe, and swing arm, which give the bike new flex characteristics and improved handling. The engine also saw notable changes aimed at improving power and controllability. On the track, the single-16 KTM is a marked improvement over the single-15 model. The new frame and suspension settings give the bike a much lighter feel without hindering handling. It tracks straight and turns remarkably well. For faster or heavier riders, though, the fork and shock are set up a little too soft, as we found the bike bottomed out hard on big landings and the front end dived under heavy braking. The motor on the 450SXF is very good. Previous model years have been extremely fast but, at times, difficult to control. The single-16 machine has a smooth, yet strong, power delivery that hits hard on the bottom and continues to pull into the top end. KTM also added launch control, allowing the 450SXF to come off the line in a straighter, more controllable fashion. When all of this is combined with KTM's excellent durability, hydraulic clutch, Brembo brakes, and ease of maintenance, the 450SXF is hard to beat. Suzuki RM-Z450. In 2015, the RM-Z450 underwent some major changes to the engine, chassis, and suspension, including an all-new Showa triple air fork among other improvements. The bike was largely met with good reviews, and because of that, Suzuki decided to leave it untouched. The engine on the single-16 machine is one of the strongest and best pulling in the class. Right off the bottom, the power comes on strong and leads into a healthy top-end pull. Suzuki also makes available different ignition couplers that can be swapped out, creating 3 power curves: lean, rich, and standard. The double-mode launch control also works very well. Suspension-wise, we found the Zook to be a bit undersprung in both the front and rear, causing it to dive too far into the stroke when entering corners. Adding more air pressure to the fork, as well as a click-on compression in the front and rear, however, helped to alleviate the bottoming and deflection problems we were having. In spite of the slight suspension woes we experienced, the RM-Z450 is one of the best turning and best handling bikes in the class. Even though it's the heaviest in this group, it feels light and flickable on the track. The RM-Z450 is among the best of the 450cc division for power and handling. Yamaha YZ450F. The YZ450F is another 450 machine that received only minor massages for 2016. The alterations that it did get, however, made a noticeable difference in performance. For single-16, Yamaha changed the material of the upper motor mounts, beefed up the swing arm pivot point on the frame, and changed suspension valving by going to stiffer springs and less aggressive valving. In conjunction with these changes, the triple clamps were changed from a 22 to a 25mm offset, giving the bike a steeper head angle to balance the new suspension settings. On the track, these changes give the bike a very planted and confidence-inspiring feel down rough straights. In corners, however, while it is one of the best turning YZFs we've ridden in years, there is room for some improvement. The bike goes exactly where it's pointed, but in tight corners, it's still necessary for the rider to be aggressively over the front end. That stated, the Kayaba suspension is great, the traditional spring fork having smooth action and excellent bottoming resistance. The motor on this latest YZF is also very strong. Minor changes to the intake and exhaust cams have given the bike a little more low-end punch without hindering the impressive top-end pull. Yamaha also added a new launch control system that works very well and remains engaged until you shift into third gear off the start. With its excellent suspension, solid chassis, and strong motor, the new YZ will be no stranger to the podium in this very competitive class.